Ah yes, the brand new Firewall support, or as I like to see it, 3 more copies of Mathmech Circular. That's right, an archetype that's already considered to be top tier and meta relevant that just got a bunch of toppings in the last Duelist Cup, just received a bunch of brand new support, which makes it even stronger. And on top of that, the brand new support isn't just your ordinary support, it's also going to be a bit of ban list proofing for the decklist. Because when Konami does decide they're finally sick of Circular's shenanigans and decide to hit it with some fat limits, like it has been done in the TCG and the OCG, when they do eventually do that, we've now got a couple of replacements for it, which just make it so that the decklist will be just as consistent as it's always been, without much change. But that's not the only new support for this decklist. What I'm about to show you is a bunch of combos using the new support that'll let you end on end fields that look a little something like this. So here's today's deck list. And just a reminder before I get into the deck list, if you guys are enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, so apparently about 35% of people watching this are even subscribed to the channel, meaning 65% of you haven't even subscribed yet. So if you guys are enjoying this kind of content and will see more deck lists from me in the future or more videos from me in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel down below. I also have a Novell video coming out tomorrow, so if you're interested in seeing that deck list, some of the combos I come up with for that deck list, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and let's get into this deck list. Alright, so thankfully I don't have to keep you guys here for too long when talking about this deck list, as obviously there's a lot of cards in here that are just your stock standard Mathmech stuff you've all seen before, you've all read before, and you basically know the gist of what they do. So all I'm going to cover in here is the newer cards. We're going to pretend the old cards are all just, you guys probably know what they do anyway, so we're not going to bother worrying about them. We're just going to talk about what's new. Starting off with, of course, the brand new starter for the deck list, which is basically just 3 more copies of Circular, your Firewall Defenser. Alright. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for the link summon of a Cyberse monster, pretty easy to do when you have a bunch of link ones in this deck list, you can spell summon 1 Firewall monster from your deck except Firewall Defenser. Alright, if a Firewall monster you control be destroyed by card effects, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Pretty important little bonus effect considering we are going to have multiple Firewall monsters at times on the field. Very useful to be able to protect them from various destruction effects. But of course the main reason we're using this thing is to turn it into a link 1 and summon out another Firewall monster straight from the deck. Going into of course your Firewall Guardian. Alright, if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for the link summon of a Cyberse monster, you can spell summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Keep in mind that banishment leaves the field part doesn't really matter too much because when you were using this thing as part of your standard combo, you're going to turn it into an Xyz monster, and when it's an Xyz material, you detach it, it no longer technically gets sent from the field to the graveyard, so you still get its bonus effect because it will just be sent to the graveyard and not banished. Alright, when an attack is declared involving your link monster and opponent's link monster, you banish this card from your graveyard to negate the attack, and if you do until the end of this turn, the original attack of that opponent's monster becomes 0, also it's unaffected by other card effects except its own. So a nice little bonus effect that you can use to make some of your opponent's monsters have 0 attack. It's not really a defensive play because it's not very often your opponent's going to have a link monster and swing into one of your big link monsters. It can happen, but not very often. Normally you'll use this thing to sort of reduce link to 0, then try to swing into it. That's basically the main use. Outside of course, it's going to be used as part of your standard combo. Alright, and that's basically it for the main deck. There's no other new additions in here, other than of course the one-off tech cards. Like you'll notice I'm now playing a copy of Dotscaper, but you've seen what this card does before, and you'll know during the combo portion why we're running it in this particular deck list. As it's actually a very neat little addition to run, which can extend your combo quite a way further than normal. Alright, now as for the extra deck, there are a lot of new additions in here. Starting off with, of course, your Cyberse Desavewurm, or however you pronounce this card. This thing, you can completely ignore basically all of its effect. All you need to worry about is when this thing is in the graveyard, when your opponent activates a Spell Trap card whilst you control a Link 4 or higher Cyberse monster, quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard to negate the activation. Fantastic, because this thing is obviously going to be sent to the graveyard using a Link 4 or higher monster, meaning you now have access to a nice little Spell Trap card negate as part of your Mathmech combo. Alright, the next new addition is going to be your Link Decoder. This thing is a Link 1, and if this thing is sent to the graveyard as material for a Cyberse monster with 23 or 100 more attack, you can spell summon this card back to the field, but banish it when it leaves the field. Very useful because, of course, we've got things like your Transcode Talker here, which has 2300 attack, So summoning Transcode Talker using this thing will just revive it back to the field for another material, which you'll see during the combo portion as well. Alright, and finally the other new addition is of course going to be your Firewall Dragon Singularity. Alright, quick effect. You can target cards your opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of different card types, ritual, fusion, synchro, exceeds you control and in your graveyard. Return them to your hand. Also, this card, or return to the hand, sorry. This card gains 500 attack for each returned card. If a monster this card points to is destroy a battle or sent to the graveyard, you can target one Cyberse monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So important things to know about this card is, 1, we are going to be sending a fusion monster to the graveyard and an exceeds monster, so most of the time if you haven't used your negate yet, this will be a bounce for 2, but sometimes if you've already used your negate, it will just be a bounce for 1, so it's sort of up in the air whether or not you want to play this monster. You don't have to play this monster as one of your boss monsters, you can play some other big firewall monster instead, like a standard firewall for example. But generally, if you want to play this card, you can use it as a bounce for 2, and its other effect, being able to revive Cyberse monsters when things leave the field, does also include if you do a linked summon below it. For example, you use something below it as material for something else, it will then revive one of your Cyberse monsters back from the graveyard. So a very good way to sort of extend and get a lot of value out of link summoning from below it. Alright, and that's basically it for the rest of the deck list. Everything else in here is just your stock standard sort of Cyberse stuff you've probably all seen before. A lot of small world targets, you've got your Nibirus for Crossout, we have a copy of your Thunder King the Lightning, which is fantastic to get rid of some of your Pearly monsters, as well as being a nice little bridge for your small world. And everything else, yeah, just extenders and stuff. Yeah, you've seen it all before. Let's just get into some gameplay showcasing the combos and how to actually play this deck list. Alright, let's jump into the first combo. So the first combo is going to be an updated version of the standard 1-card Mathmech Circular combo, except we're now using the brand new support to make it a little bit better. Now keep in mind, just like with all my combo tutorials, the rest of my hand, we're only focusing on the Mathmech Circular, so pretend the rest of my hand is all just bricks or random ass cards, and we've just got just this card in our hand. Alright, activating the Circular. Sending a copy of your Sigma to the graveyard. Alright, summoning it to the field. This of course means we can now use the Sigma's effect, summoning it back to the field. And our Circular can now give us a search to grab your Superfactorial. Alright, of course, 2 level 4s on field means we can make our Alembertian. And Alembertian is going to be detaching 2 cards to be searching for a copy of your Diameter. Alright, now we can normal summon Diameter, reviving one of those level 4s back from the graveyard, grabbing this Sigma. And now we're going to go into the first new card we're going to be showing in the video, Link Decoder. Alright, so summoning the Link Decoder, which I just happen to have as a prismatic, with a humble flex there. And these 2 cards can now become your Splash Mage. Alright, Splash Mage of course going to be activating to revive one of those monsters back. We're just going to grab this Sigma. And from here we're going to go into our Transcode Talker, using the Splash Mage and the Link Decoder. And because you used the Link Decoder as material, it can now summon itself back to the field. And very important, don't put it below this arrow because you need to use this card's effect, so it needs this zone to be empty. So you can just put it anywhere else. Alright, activating the Transcode Talker's effect to revive the Splash Mage. And from here we have plenty of materials on field, so we can just summon out a copy of our Dark Fluid. Using these 3 cards here, leaving the Splash Mage. Alright, now we can use this card's effect to send a copy of our Dotscaper to the graveyard. This will trigger Dotscaper to summon itself back to the field. Then we have a 2 and a 1, so that's a nice copy of Heatsoul. Which is of course going to draw us a couple of cards, hoping to hit some hand traps. Let's see if we hit any. Unfortunately not, we had a Kaiju. But now we're going to, of course, set our Superfactorial and pass the turn. Then during our opponent's turn, we have a couple of effects we're going to use. We're going to, of course, activate our Dark Fluid. Then we're going to use our Heatsoul to draw a card. Alright. So hoping to hit another hand trap, which we actually did. And our Dark Fluid is going to send another brand new card to the graveyard, your Cyberse card I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of. And this card is basically just a spell and trap card negate by banishing it from the graveyard, as long as you have this big boy on the field. And that is basically your end field. You've drawn 2 cards off of Heatsoul, hopefully hitting some hand traps. You've sent a card to the graveyard, which is a nice spell and trap card negate. And of course, we still have your Superfactorial, which summons your 3 Mathmechs to summon out your wherever he is, your Laplacian, which is of course the card that removes 3 different cards and has a negate on it because we have used your Diameter as material. Alright, let's jump into the second combo. This combo is going to be using just a single copy of Defenser. Again, pretending the rest of my hand is all just bricks, we've just got the Defenser. Alright, Defenser can now become a copy of Linguriboh. Defenser going to the graveyard means it can now summon out a Firewall from the deck, grabbing your Guardian. And this gives you 2 monsters on field to go into a nice copy of Splash Mage. Alright, Defenser being used as material means it can now grab itself and summon back to the field. And of course, we still have Splash Mage's effect to give us our other level 4. And this is how we get a hold of our Circular, because now we have our 2 monsters on the field to make our Alembertian, which will give us our Circular by detaching some cards, grabbing Circular. Then we're going to use Circular's effect, send a copy of your Nabla to the graveyard. Alright, and the reason we're using Nabla this time is because we still need to get a hold of 3 Mathmech names for when you activate your trap card. Alright, now we can use your Alembertian's effect, triggering itself, to bring back that Nabla. Triggering the Circular to search for our Superfactorial. Alright, Nabla can then tribute itself to grab the Diameter from the deck, and that is of course going to be your 3 names ready for when you want to use your trap card. And of course, one of them being Diameter, so you have the nice little negate. Alright, from here we now go to a copy of your Link Decoder. And from there, we can now summon out our Transcode Talker. Alright, your Link Decoder is going to summon itself back to the field. Once again, being careful not to block the Transcode Talker's arrows. And Transcode Talker can now revive the Splash Mage back to the field. Alright, and we're back to the same sort of end field that we showed in the first combo, so just use all these cards over here, not using the Splash Mage. Summon the Dark Fluid. Dark Fluid effect can send your Dotscaper. Dotscaper can revive, and that's a 2 and a 1. So you now have a Heatsoul. And yeah, you've seen this already from the first combo. Decode Talker drawing cards, set your Factorial. Then during the opponent's turn, you can draw an extra card. And of course your Dark Fluid's going to be sending the new fusion to the graveyard. And we're back at the exact same end board with the exact same interruptions as the first combo. You've got your Superfactorial ready to summon your 3 dudes to the field, summon out the Exceed, have the extra negate. You've sent a card to the graveyard with your Dark Fluid, which can be banished to negate spell and trap cards, and we've drawn a bunch of cards with Heatsoul, hoping to hit some extra hand traps. Alright, on to your third and final combo. This combo is going to be using your Defenser in combination with your Parallel Exceed. It can also use your Circular in combination with the Parallel Exceed as well. It's essentially going to be the exact same as the previous 2 combos, but we're going to differentiate at a certain point to include the Parallel Exceed as part of it. So we're going to do the same combo you just saw in the previous replay to start with. So summoning out our Linguriboh. And again, like I said, we can also start this combo off with Circular as well. Same combos as before, but we're going to differentiate later down the line. Alright. So Defenser, of course, summoning back your dude from your deck. Alright, these 2 cards can now become a copy of Splash Mage. Which of course triggers the Defenser, and we can use the Splash Mage to get another revive. So we get our 2 level 4s on field, so we can grab our Circular. Alright, reviving once again. And from here, 2 level 4s, that is a Alembertian, ready to grab our Circular. Alright, activating his effect. Detaching 2 materials. Grabbing the Circular. Alright, using the Circular's effect. Once again, sending the Nabla. Summoning itself to the field. Tripping itself. Reviving the Nabla. Triggering the Circular so you can grab your Superfactorial. I technically already have one in hand, so we're going to grab the Equation instead, but normally you grab Superfactorial. Nabla's effect so you can grab your Diameter. So we have our 3 Mathmech names now. And of course, we can now go into a copy of our Link Decoder. And now go into a copy of our Transcode Talker. And this is where things are going to start to differentiate. So we're going to summon back this card, and of course summon back the Splash Mage. But once we've done that, we're now going to do something a little bit different. Because now we're going to use these monsters here, not using the Diameter this time, we're going to use the Splash Mage to summon out a copy of your big boy, your Firewall Dragon Singularity, using these cards over here. Now, because we summon a Link monster, our Parallel Exceed can be active, summoning that to the field. Which of course summons out another one from the deck. Alright, these 2 cards can now become a copy of your Golem. Which is going to be used to bring back a copy of your Transcode Talker. Placing that on the field. Alright, these cards here can now become a copy of your Dark Fluid. Using you, and using you. I didn't use the right amount of materials. Using you, and using you. Putting them over here. Now, because a card was sent to the graveyard from below your Singularity, Singularity's effect activates to revive one of those cards, bringing back a Link 2. And we can also trigger your Dark Fluid to send a copy of your Dotscaper to the graveyard. Alright, summoning him back, summoning your Dotscaper. And we know where this is going. These 2 cards are of course going to become your Heatsoul. Using this card over here, this one here. Heatsoul's of course going to draw you a card. Alright, which actually hit a hand trap, which is quite useful. Alright, and then of course, after setting the Superfactorial, we pass the turn. And you'll see we've ended on the exact same end board, but now I've got a really big Link monster on the field as well. So again, gonna draw your card with your Heatsoul. Gonna send your card to the graveyard with your Dark Fluid. And sending the fusion monster to the graveyard is actually extra beneficial here, because it means we have an extra target for your Singularity, which needs fusions, exceeds, or synchros in the graveyard or rituals. But in this case, we've now got a fusion, and we've got an exceed, meaning this card can bounce 2 cards on the field. So on top of your draw effect, top of your negate effect from graveyard, and your Superfactorial effect, we now have a double bounce as well. Sometimes it'll only be a singular bounce, because you'll have to banish the negate beforehand, because your opponent will activate something you need to stop immediately. But if you can hold on to this negate and keep it in the graveyard, this is going to be a double bounce to bounce 2 cards your opponent controls. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this little combo tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Remember, I do have a Novell video still coming out tomorrow, so if you're interested in seeing that deck list, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, so you don't miss out. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.